Okay. Technician says, it doesn't tell you which technician. It just said technician A is going to be the one that we're saying he is. Technician A says the rubber glove should be rated at 1,000 volts or higher. Technician B says the leather gloves should be worn over the high voltage rubber gloves. Who is correct about that?
I'd say both.
Both technicians are correct about that. Now, the gloves that we got here, these are the gloves right here. And what you're supposed to do to check these gloves, just do a cursory examination, is you're supposed to trap as much air in them as you can. And then you're supposed to roll them up like that. See if they hold air. If they don't hold air, you got to roll them tight so that you know the air is not leaking out the back. If you roll them up and they hold air and they're not leaking air out, through a hole in the glove somewhere, then you're good. Now this glove right here, these gloves have got a date on them when they were checked. These right here, when I got them, was in March of 2010. This particular set of gloves here. They were checked the last time in January 2010. Now, if I was working on hybrid vehicles, I would have these checked every 6 months. See the date that's on the glove? These were checked a long time ago. I'm just using these in the classroom for demonstration purposes. Make sure if you get some, you can go and buy cheap ones online, but that's not good, not advisable. These leather protectors, the reason they're there is so you don't, when you're handling stuff, cut a hole in your high voltage glove. So these are not to help the voltage stay away from your hand. These are to protect the rubber ones from getting cut. That's what they're there for. And these actually belong to me here. These are some of my gloves. And they really need to be sent off and tested. And what they do is they put them in water and they see if they can shoot voltage through them. That's what they do. And it's pretty cool how you can look at glovetesting.com and get an idea on that. When I went to the Craig Van Battenberg's school, I got this little bag here. This bag here has got a magnet on it. And what you're supposed to do, there's a little warning sign on it. You're supposed to take your gloves out of this bag whenever you're working with them and stick this on the car. And that's going to be a warning label for people to stay clear while you're working on a hybrid vehicle. So Ford Motor Company, what their instructions were whenever their hybrid Escape first came out, and this got 330 volts I think on the battery, was they had to put purple cones all the way around the battery. I'm not all the way around the car while he's working on it. These purple cones, like traffic cones, sort of, and you were supposed to wear those and a face shield. Of course, I got some goggles over there, and the cool thing about that was there's a technician disconnect tool, which was a long plastic hook. And if they were figured if this thing got a hold of you and started shocking you, somebody standing by you would get this plastic hook and jerk you off the car. And they showed a picture of a guy standing by with it. Nobody else before did that. But as far as I've ever been able to tell, and I haven't heard anything beyond what the last thing that I had researched, is nobody's ever been hurt or killed fooling with hybrid vehicles. It's always possible that you could, but it's just not anything that has happened yet. There's some urban legend stuff out there on the internet, but I don't know. Okay, now then, I am going to move on to the next question now before I bore everybody to tears. What I got here is Cat 3 certified digital multimeter should be used when measuring high voltage circuits or components. The Cat 3 rating relates to what?
Both A and B.
So it'll be both A and B. Both A and B. Now this right here, this one right here is not the meter that most of the time you're going to see people using a fluke meter. This is one that I bought because I could get it really quick. This is a Cat 3 high voltage meter. Now you got to make sure when you're using a high voltage meter that sometimes these things right here, whenever you push them down in there, they'll feel like they're all the way in, and they won't be, especially if it's new. Imagine what would happen. See, what you're supposed to do when you start working on a hybrid vehicle is you're supposed to do the disconnect there at the battery. And then you're supposed to take your meter, wearing your gloves, and you're supposed to go to the point where the motor, check at your transmission motors, and you're supposed to check or anywhere else that you're going to be working that may have high voltage, like if it's AC compressor and it runs electrically with high voltage, anywhere you see the orange cables, you're supposed to check with this meter, and you're also supposed to clip one side. You know, the hybrid battery is not grounded to the vehicle, okay, anywhere. So you're basically not going to check from vehicle ground to there when you're checking that. You got to check for that. But anytime you are checking, you need to hook up one, your ground side, and then your others. Put one, even if you're wearing your gloves, put one hand behind your back and check the other. See, if you put one hand behind your back, there's no way you can be leaning on the car and have it run through your chest cavity. See what I'm saying? So that's even when you're checking. If you're fooling around with spark plugs, it's always a good idea to just have one hand somewhere, or you can use a little wristband like I do, and on the spark plug part, and hook it to the like, or one of those things that computer people use to ground themselves. So if it does shock you, just run through your hand and straight out, and it won't come up here and make all this happen. See, anyway, this right here is yeah, that'll knock a tar out of you. But anyway, you got see, here's your 1,000 volts. Right there, see that? Now this is also a tester to see if you got high voltage leaks. It does that too.
Leaks?
Yeah, high voltage leaks can be tested with this.
How you get a leak in voltage?
Well, voltage, going through the insulation on the wire.
Oh, okay.
And stuff. But anyway, that's actually and you notice on the bottom down there, it says Cat 3 high voltage, and there's actually, but this is I don't know if you've ever, I think on the Fluke website, and I ought to find it, there is a picture of them, and this thing's got big, beautiful numbers, by the way. There's a picture of the somebody hooking a regular meter up to really high voltage. They hook it up and then they fire up the circuit, and the meter literally explodes into 1,000 pieces like a bomb.
What?
Yeah, I mean, so you got to be really, really careful with that, and make sure you look after your cables too. Something else, these little, you know what these little these little things right here are for? The little around here, that is basically there to help prevent sweat from trickling off your fingers down here and getting on the probes.
Really?
Yeah, that's part of what that's there for.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was something that I learned at a school when I was at the Mobile Air Conditioning Society. I thought it was cool. But they said that's basically what those were originally put there, particularly on these meters right here for. And so if you're holding them with naked hands and salty sweat trickles down there, that salty sweat can carry voltage up there and bite you, So, anyway, there's the thing on that high voltage meter. All right. Now then, moving on and everything, I'm going to go to number 3. All of the following will shut off the high voltage to the components and circuits except A, disconnecting the 12-volt auxiliary battery, B, opening the driver's door, C, removing the main fuse, relay, or HV plug, D, turning the ignition off.
B.
Well, that's going to be B. Opening the driver's door is not going to do that. Now, you guys have seen these cars where you got a fob in your pocket. All you need is a fob in your pocket, and you walk up to the door of the car, and when you get close to the door of the car, when you touch it, it opens. If somebody doesn't have the fob, it won't. But there's a little sensor, there's a little thumb sensor on the handle that so that it knows when you've touched it. Now, it's not reading your thumbprint. Don't get confused by that. It's actually knowing that a thumb is touching it. Because everybody's got a little biometric aura around their skin. That's how these touch lamps work. You know what I mean? When you touch the lamp. And also, you got, of course, the cell phone screen uses heat.
What are you talking about?
Whenever you touch that little button on the thing, it knows that a thumb is there because it's reading this electrical field around your thumb.
Oh, okay.
You ever seen some of these television stuff where all you got to do is just touch the little switch, but if you do it with a pencil eraser, it won't work?
Yeah, that's not what I don't got a lot of that aura stuff because I got
Yeah. So yeah. We'll check your resistance with a meter and see what it is. I used to have lower resistance than anybody else in the shop. When we would check it with the SBDS machine, we'd get the 2 meters and see how low we could get the ohms to go. All right, now then, let's see. If the engine is not running, Technician A says the high voltage circuits are depowered. Technician B says all high voltage wiring is orange in color. Now, what do you think the answer to that one?
I think B's right.
color.
Huh?
I And B is right.
high voltage wiring is orange in color. Now, some of the voltage, medium voltage wire, like on your Chevrolets that have like 36 volts and all, will be blue. But the high voltage, the higher voltage stuff, is all going to be orange. Now, let me tell you this, guys. When you're jacking up a hybrid vehicle on the lift or something, and you sooner or later you're probably going to wind up putting one up on their lift, you need to make sure that you pay attention to where those orange cables are, because they run sometimes under the body of the car in a sheath piece. They don't want to pinch those things, you know what I mean? You know, the weight of the car being held by that orange cable, you know. So just pay attention to that too. Okay, so let's see. The technician B is right there. The other guy's not. Which statement is false about high voltage wiring? A, connects the controller to the motor generator. B, is controlled by a relay that opens if the ignition is off. C, is electrically grounded to the frame. Or D, connects the battery pack to the electric controller.
That's C.
That's a C, isn't it? All right, it's not grounded to the frame. What routine service procedure could result in lower fuel economy, which the owner may notice?
A and B.
A, using the wrong viscosity engine oil. C, replacing the air filter. B, replacing tires. D, A or B. These hybrid vehicles use special tires. You know, let's go down to the used tire store and get you a set of, 255 3016s and put on there. You got to have the right tires. And I will tell you this, the hybrid vehicle driver is going to be paying attention to his little computer on his dash, and he's going to be watching that fuel economy. And if he was getting 86 miles to the gallon before, and after you worked on it, now he's getting 78 miles to the gallon, you're going to be hearing about it. He's going to come back. The tire pressure is critical. It's just really all that stuff. They've got all these neat little air dams and stuff, and the bodies are fixed so that they do everything they can to bring the mileage up by making the wind resistance as low as it can be and all that kind of thing. And you'd be surprised how much difference there is up under the fenders of a car. Back years ago, when there were these DeSotos that were driving up and down the road, these old humpbacked cars from the late 40s, early 50s, and all that. All of that air would get up under those fenders sometimes when you're driving down the road, and it would feel like a covey of quail came out of the seat of your pants. Scare you to death. I mean, it's absolutely scary to death. But it's because they didn't have splash shields under the fenders, and they'd catch all that air and they go boom, 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 boom. All right. Let me see here. What statement is false about high voltage wiring? No, never mind. I went the wrong one. Sorry. 7, not 5. 2 technicians are discussing jump starting a hybrid vehicle. Technician A says the high voltage batteries can be jumped on some HEV models. Technician B says the 12 volt auxiliary battery can be jumped using a conventional jump box or jumper cable. Both of those guys are right, believe it or not. But you know what was really cool about the Ford Escape? On the Ford Escape, let's say that your hybrid battery was dead on the Ford Escape, the way they, when they first built these things. And there was a little switch down there that you could mash, and it had a timer on it, and it would actually use the 12 volt battery going through the electronics to put a partial charge on the big battery in the back. And then whenever it would eventually kill the 12 volt battery, and then you could charge the 12 volt battery back up, give it a good strong charge, do that again, and you could bring that 12 volt, that big 330 volt battery back to life with the 12 volt battery. It was cool as all get out. Now Toyota, when they first came out, if that battery got below a 20% state of charge, you could not charge it up in the field.
Why?
Because you had to borrow a charger from Toyota. They had to send it to you.
Yeah, I bet you then you didn't
And
follow
I will tell you something else about the hybrid vehicles. You're not going to say, well, I run out of gas, so I'm going to drive for 30 or 40 miles on my battery. It ain't happening. You're going to go a mile and you're going to be dead side of the road. Now, like I say, the Ford Fusion, Ford's ad says it'll go like a mile and a half at 50 miles an hour running on just the battery.
That's stupid.
But the Chevy Volt now is a pretty cool deal, because with the Chevy Volt you have a 3-gallon gas tank, and you have it's a plug-in hybrid, but you got a 3-gallon gas tank and you got an engine. So if your battery's dead, you can drive it on 3 gallons of gas for a while. Now the battery, the engine doesn't charge the battery on a Volt, but mashing the brakes does. So when you hit the brakes, when you've got momentum and you hit the brakes, charging the battery, the electronics actually harness that power in the drive motor.
I mean, it's cool how everything works, but I mean, obviously paying all the money for, You can go a mile and a half on the daggone electric motor.
Well, overall, they get pretty good mileage,
Yeah,
whenever
I mean,
but
you know what I'm
basically,
saying.
yeah, I know what you're saying. I mean, but they're basically what they're doing is the whole shooting match on this thing is they say, is it necessary for the engine to be running all the time?
Yeah, right. I mean, I understand.
You know, something else is really cool about these hybrid vehicles. If you've got, you know how alternator stators go bad and some of the windings internal get shorted and they make a noise and all that. Well, these hybrids, the way that they're fixed up, if you've got some codes that indicates that one of your windings in your motor is bad and all that kind of stuff, you can actually push the car, and if it doesn't roll smooth, if it's going, that means that you got a bad transmission. I mean, that's how you troubleshoot that. You can actually create that by shorting two of those windings together, and pushing the car. Even with the battery and everything totally unhooked and everything, if you short two of those windings together with a dadgum jumper wire, it'll make the car push hard and easy, hard and easy, hard and easy when it's, in neutral. And they showed us that up at the school. That's pretty cool. And you can also take a hybrid transmission that's sitting there on the ground, and you reach in there and grab the shaft going in there, and when you turn that shaft, it should turn easy and smooth. If it turns really hard or it's hard and easy, then you got a bad winding in that in the transmission, yeah. And that happens fairly regular. He had 6 or 7 transmissions there that have already been changed out for that. But there's a bunch of them, people that's got lots of experience on hybrids out there already. Hybrids are not as scary. Now, hybrids, like you say, are pretty expensive, but you can buy this one instructor, and I need to be looking around for this myself, but he bought a used hybrid off of eBay for like $1,800 or something.
What?
And he just tinkered with it and patched it up, and he's just been driving it to save gas. But you can buy some Honda Civics and stuff that that are for not much money used off of eBay. People have got them for sale. So he's looking over. Look for a used hybrid vehicle on eBay. See what you come up with.
So that's not that bad, though. I don't see paying
$40,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. All the cars we buy are program cars. That's usually a year old, and you can save $5,000-$6,000 like that on them. Let me say, what can occur if a hybrid electric vehicle is pushed in the shop? The HV battery back can be damaged. The tires will be locked unless the ignition is on. High voltage will be generated by the motor generator. Damage to the electronic motor controller can occur. Actually, you can generate high voltage. You know that you can, if I took a motor, electric motor in my hand, like a fan motor, like I could hit, and put a drill on that sucker and spin that thing, it can create it'll create voltage by spinning it, right? All right, so, and that's what they're talking about if you roll it in the shop. Nickel metal hydride batteries can be damaged if exposed to temperatures higher than about what? 150 degrees. They're typically supposed to run about, if everything's working like it's supposed to in the cooling system for that battery, the batteries have got dedicated cooling. They'll have dedicated ducts, dedicated fans. In the Ford Escape, there's a dedicated evaporator core that air conditions the battery area. And it's supposed to keep the battery at about 76 degrees. That's where the battery likes to live.
That's pretty cool.
It likes to be cool, yeah.
I mean,
but
the whole thing of hybrid, it's cool the way it does it, but
yeah. Yeah, but we, the reason we're doing this is because those things are out there, and you don't need to be dumb about them, And Michael is not interested in them in the least. He just doesn't.
I asked him about that, and he told me he said he was just backed up and didn't have time.
Yeah, well, he probably was because he's been backed up a lot. How should nickel metal hydride batteries be disposed of? In the regular trash, right? Okay. There's an 800 number you call. It'll either be on the battery or on the hood of the car. Okay. How often should linesman's gloves be inspected by testing labs? I said that earlier. 6 months. Technician A said all components in the high voltage battery box are completely insulated from the rest of the vehicle for safety. Technician B says the high voltage battery box is located under the hood in some vehicles. It's going to be an A. The high voltage cables are A, orange in color, B, energized during events where the ignition switch is in the on position. C would be A and B. Okay. Technician A says when a hybrid electric vehicle must remain in the shop for over a month, the battery should be charged by running the vehicle if possible. Technician B says if the battery unit must be removed, it should be handled with PPE and always tested for voltage and treated with care. Both of those guys are right. One of the best, the glass mat batteries that looks like it's a little sulfuric acid battery, but instead of having lead in there, it's got glass mat. You can't just charge it with a regular battery charger.
Right.
The best charger that you can have is crank the car up and let it run. If you can get the car started and get it running, just let the car run and let it charge the battery up.
How long will the battery last if you don't charge it? You know, I mean, if you just let it sit in there,
Which battery?
the hybrid battery.
The hybrid battery. Well, there's different things about that I've heard. They claim just, you know, 2 or 3 or 4 months. That battery I got sitting out there on the table was in here for a year or two. And whenever Craig came to teach the hybrid class, you know, we stripped it all apart and all that. And he checked the voltage on it, and it still had about 210 volts in it.
Oh yeah.
So, and that was 2 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, that was something I was telling them at the school over there. You know, there's not a lot of testing on that. There is a guy though, the cool guy that uses. He's taking these hybrid batteries and rebuilding them with lithium-ion cells, which is better than nickel metal hydride.
Why is he rebuilding?
Because the ones that are bad, he gets bad batteries that have been swapped out, and he just actually takes lithium-ion cells and rebuilds the battery with all new lithium-ion cells, and really slightly makes it into a better battery. And those batteries are, you know, heck, they're a lot of money, several $1,000s, you know. As a matter of fact, Ford made, how many of you know that Ford Motor Company made an electric Ford Ranger in the 90s that was fully electric? Absolutely fully electric. And the whole bed of the truck, you know, had a battery. Well, underneath the parts where you haul stuff, there was a layer under there that had a battery in it, the way I understand. And the cities used them and stuff. They burned absolutely no fuel whatsoever. But when you had to buy a battery for one of those trucks, it was $18,000. But not that they needed one all that often. But you can actually take a bunch of car batteries and put them together in series and put you a motor to, you know, if you can hook a motor up, you can build you an electric vehicle. You know, you get 30, 40 miles out of it between charges, you know, but it takes a while to charge it back up. All right, now then, let's see. Technician A says high voltage cables may be repaired if damaged while lifting on a vehicle hoist. In other words, if you lift it on the hoist and damage the cables, can you fix those?
No.
Okay. Technician B says a paint oven does not get hot enough to damage high voltage cables or hybrid components.
What do you mean? Oh, you talking about
When you put the car in there and you facto bake or whatever, you know, where you paint the thing.
I don't know.
Oh, magnet.
Huh? I've got a little cheat sheet here. It came from ACDC. And it says, let's see, do not place a hybrid car in a paint booth if it's over 140 degrees. 8, a high voltage battery pack, a series of nickel metal hydride batteries can be damaged. Get proper training before working on hybrid vehicle systems, right? All right. Now then, so you keep it out of the paint booth. That's going to be, out of the, you know, oven. You're going to be, that's D, neither technician. What is true regarding protective gloves worn in hybrid vehicle service? They ought to be checked for leaks before each use. They ought to be worn over, yeah, exactly. You saw those. Technicians, A says Cat 1 meter leads may be used to test high voltage system components as long as the digital multimeter itself is Cat 3. That's not right. Technician B says Cat 4 leads are clamp-on type inductive type leads. Technician B is right about that. Technician A says digital multimeters are assigned Cat ratings based on voltage capacity alone. Technician B says digital multimeters are rated according to their ability to handle potential electrical energy, and B is the one that's correct about that. So, what's considered the main power source for all hybrid electric vehicles?
Ain't it the DC to DC converter?
No.
Actually, it's the internal combustion engine. Most of the time, it's going to be running on that internal combustion engine. There's going to be times when you stop in traffic when it's going to be sitting there with the other engine running, unless you got the air conditioner on max. If you got the air conditioner on max, that engine's always going to be running. Let me ask you this, though. This is an air conditioning question. If I was driving my pickup truck to Atlanta, and it was a long trip, and it was a hot summer day, what air conditioner setting should I choose in order to have the best gas mileage?
Have it off with the windows down.
No, I'm talking actually, the windows down may act like a parachute and slow you down. But like if I was going to run the air conditioner, I want to stay cool.
Would it be medium?
No, well, I mean, like what, max or norm?
I'd say norm.
Huh?
Normal with research? Like,
Get it
normal
good and
is
cold, and
recirculating.
then just keep it on
That's impossible.
something.
If it's recirculating, it's always max.
Get it
Because
on.
you're doing the same air. Recirculating, you're actually re-air conditioning the same air. Of course, I know what you're saying. You've got a recirc button and all that.
That's what
But
I'm-
that's just like max air, basically. But the long and the short of it is if you run it on max, the compressor's not going to be on as much. So you're going to save gas. Because you're air conditioning the same air. You put it on norm, you're pulling hot air from outside, compressor's going to be cycled on more of the time. Makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I never really thought about that a lot until this friend of mine that I was
That's
working
the
with.
best way to do it.
Him and his wife drove a Taurus that he had up to Atlanta, and it was really hot both ways. And he got better mileage. He turned it on max one way, norm the other way, and it made like 2 or 3 miles to the gallon difference. You know,
Best way to do it, just take it off.
talking about saving gas, and hybrids is all about saving gas. If I leave, and I used to find this out, just experimenting when I used to drive to the Dothan every day. When you leave Daleville, that traffic signal at Daleville on the highway going to Dothan, and you head for Dothan, okay, Wes is going to be in his little SX 240, whatever, or one of the other 18 cars he's got, and he and I are going to take off together, and Wes is going to drive 65 miles an hour all the way to Dothan, and I'm going to drive 55 miles an hour all the way to Dothan. Okay, so, and it's, like 15 miles or something like that, all the way to Dothan. So he's driving all the way to Dothan at 65 miles an hour. He hits the light there at Wicksburg. He hits that green, and I hit it green. We both hit it green. But I'm obviously behind him some. Okay, now, when Wes drives up to that traffic circle at Dothan, having gone 65 miles an hour for 15 miles, while he's waiting for that traffic signal to turn, I'm going to pull up behind him, and I'm going to be waiting too. What did you gain by driving 65 miles an hour? Less than 60 seconds. It seems like you are really setting the road on fire, but if you actually do the math and you watch somebody that's driving 55 will pull up behind you at that light when you drove 65.
I've noticed that.
Here's another thing. There was a Ford Motor Company technical service bulletin that came out and was talking about gas mileage. And if your car has got 40% more wind drag at 65 than it does at 55. And for a long time in these here United States, when they were talking about saving gas in the 70s, the speed limit all over the whole country, I don't care where you went, was not any more than 55 miles an hour. That's all you had. That's why these speedometers have got 55
Yeah,
circled, because that was the speed limit. You better not go over 55 because you're breaking the speed limit. And then a lot of the senators and congressmen said, this is a bunch of hooey. I'm tired of driving 55. So they vote, bam, got it back up to 70, 75, whatever.
Well, around here it's not no 75, 70, 75, it's 65.
Yeah, 65 miles an hour, but I mean, for eons it was 55. And everybody hated that.
Well, can't congressmen break the speed limit for no repercussion anyways?
Yeah, they can. Well, I don't know. They don't. They just actually changed it all because they knew they weren't always going to be in there. Okay. Now then, what we're looking at here is, where did we go here?
41.
21?
Oh, no, 20.
20. Technician A says the high voltage battery container is grounded to the vehicle chassis. Technician B says the high voltage battery and its housing and container are completely insulated and isolated from the rest of the vehicle. He is right. Technician A says a completely assembled electric motor is not likely to produce injury by electrical shock. Technician B says turning off the ignition on hybrid electric vehicle caused the main relay to disable the high voltage system. Which technician is correct? Both of them. Now you got to know, you have to know how to make sure that you got it turned off. Sometimes it can be ready to start and not start, or the engine may start and die, and there's crazy stuff that goes on in there and all that. And also, I'll tell you something else. It spins that motor, that little starter motor down there spins that motor about 1,100 RPM. And it may sound like it's running when it's not. And you can be running your big high voltage battery down and not know it. And
Why did they change the App Store to Google Play?
I don't know.
You notice that?
Yeah, I
too?
noticed that. That was something they had some reason to do it. Probably so they can make more money. All right. Which statement regarding high voltage circuitry in hybrid electric vehicles is not correct? A, the system is energized when the ICE is running, ICE being an internal combustion engine, and the vehicle is accelerating. B, the system is disabled when the ignition switch is off. C, the high voltage system is not energized when the ICE is in an idle stop mode. The electric AC compressor is running. That's the one that's right. C is right. It's not correct. The high voltage system is not energized when the ICE is in idle stop mode. and the electric AC compressor running. Right? I mean, it's some of these questions are sort of, is you got to weed through all of the verbiage to figure out what's going on. And I'm telling you, you better get used to stuff like this because on the ASC test, you're going to see all of these are correct except technician A, technician B. You won't usually see this just straight up. You can guess at it. On a hybrid electric vehicle that uses a start push button, what precautions should be taken when depowering the vehicle? Let me pause for a second. There was a little Nissan that we had out here. Have you ever seen a Nissan that's got a little thing it looks like what you stick a key in and turn it, but it's blocked where you can't stick a key in it, right? All right, and if you've got the fob in your pocket, when you get in there, you can start that sucker up. If you don't have the fob in your pocket, you can't start it up.
Right.
Well, we had one out here, and I was showing it to these high school students when Brandon was a high school dual enrollment student. And so, remember that story?
Yeah.
I got out there and I said, watch this, guys. This is how you start this vehicle. So I got in there with the fob in my pocket. Boom, started it up, switched it off. I said, now you get in there, start it. They get in there, wouldn't do anything. And I'd say, and that's how I'd get in there. No, you didn't do it right. This is how you do it. Boom, I started it up. I get out. And so finally I said, okay, they all may have messed it up. I hope it starts. And I got in there and I said, okay, car, I want you to start now. And Brandon goes, this is one of those voice-activated cars.
No, he didn't.
He totally convinced himself. He convinced himself it was a voice-activated car. Of course, I was trying to pull a stunt like that and get somebody to make it, it was funny. Well, he's trying to put A and B together. You see. Okay, on a hybrid electric vehicle, use a start push button. What precautions should be taken when depowering the vehicle?
Right.
What was 23?
Yeah.
23 was, I'm sorry, how long can power be retained in the high voltage system after it's been disabled? 10 minutes. Listen, guys, when you pull that plug, you better wait a while before you go and start fooling with it. Wait 10 minutes because the capacitors have got to bleed on, okay? There's them capacitors in there. They can have enough energy stored in them to where they can blow your hand clean off. So don't go there without, when you let it wait 10 minutes, and then you go to your pertinent voltage points where you're going to be working and check and make darn sure there's not any voltage there.
Or I said 5 minutes. I just
Huh?
almost.
Yeah, well, 10 minutes is safe, okay? I mean, 5 minutes will probably work, but 10 minutes is safe. You can actually measure, you can put your meter on it,
The first one you had to actually put
and
in.
you can actually put your meter on it and disconnect it and watch that voltage bleed off. See what I'm saying? So,
This one you just had in front.
all right.
You put it in reverse, it
We should do that sometime.
would be more.
On a hybrid electric vehicle, use the start button. What precautions be taken when depowering the vehicle? You're supposed to make sure the key fob is at least 15 feet away from the vehicle. Now that's sort of, 15 feet is not fast and hard. Sometimes it'll be closer whenever, farther away and whatever. So somebody demonstrated that when I was up there at school. They got actually way up there on the stairway and the thing was still fired up. So you got to be, see, the long and the short of it is if you've got the thing in the wrong mode of operation and you drain the oil out on the lift and it decides, well, my battery's getting low. I think I need to start the engine. You can fire the engine up on the lift while you got the oil drained out of it. And boy, that's a stressful thing, isn't it? You got the oil drain. Well, you can put the oil back in with, squirt it in here with a gun. And hopefully it doesn't burn something up on it. All right, so just make doggone sure you understand the operation of that thing. What's the recommended location to store a hybrid ignition key during service? We'll put it in a glove box?
No, you put it in
Put it in a lock box. Put it somewhere. I tell you something else that you need to put, and where they can't get to it is the little plug that you took out to disable it. If it's laying there somewhere and some yo-yo decides to stick it back in there because they say, oh, somebody forgot this, and he wakes the electric system up while you're trying to work on it. This could be a dicey situation. Okay, we got some hybrid air conditioning systems use electrically driven compressor that uses special lubricant. That anybody can remember ND11? Can you remember that? Your air conditioning oil that you use is ND11 because you don't want it to attack the insulation on the wires inside the compressor. A dedicated recycling machine for the HEV. Now that sounds pretty expensive, doesn't it? Servicing the base brakes on a hybrid vehicle requires the technician to do what? Replace the pads as needed when on any other vehicle. If you look at the brakes on a hybrid vehicle, you're going to pretty much see brakes like you see anywhere else. They're not going to be all that much different. But I'm going to tell you something. Typically, the rear brakes are going to wear out quicker than the front ones, which is the opposite of what you're used to. And you need to find out what it is that you need to do to make darn sure that the braking system doesn't automatically begin to apply the brakes while you've got the brakes disassembled here.
Cut your finger off.
Yeah, it could cut your finger clean off. A hybrid vehicle 12-volt battery is located under the hood. This will usually be a what?
Loaded better.
A glass mat, AGM design. Now, remember what I told you the other day? If the engine's not running and you're not sure if your contactors are closed back there and your batteries, your hybrid. In other words, if those batteries are shooting juice out to the rest of the car, one of the ways you can tell that is by taking your meter, hooking it up to the 12-volt battery. If you see 14.5 volts in a 12-volt battery, you'll know that those contactors are closed and the high voltage system's online. Mm-hmm. Now, if you put your meter there, and like if it's supposed to be online but it's not, and you check with your meter and you see that you only got like 12 volts there, then you'll know that you're not hooked up, your contactors aren't closed. A hybrid vehicle control system can detect a high voltage leak at the ground by use of doing what? A ground fault monitor system. Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. Now, which of the following systems will require depowering the high voltage system during service?
Electronic AC compressor replacement.
There you go. That's not a hard thing. All right. Now I'm going to do a little dab of instruction on this battery out here, and I really would like to. I need all those contactors and everything, but that battery doesn't have them on it.